you shared with me your vision, your ultimate vision, with this lifetime that you've been given. And now I would love to be able to give you the stage to speak with thousands of reviewers and share with them the vision that you've sold me in. And, yeah, like just tell them about it, and what milestones, what is needed to be able to achieve that vision, and what is the milestone that you have set in order to accomplish that goal.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share. And thank you for giving me a platform to actually spread this message, because it's so big, I can't do it on my own. And I need people like you to buy into the vision and to be their unique versions of themselves, to find your purpose so that it can help me accomplish this, which is essentially this. And you said it earlier, I do believe that world peace is possible in our lifetime. And as I've studied nations and wars, and I'm in the Navy, so obviously that's closer to home than some others maybe. But as I study struggle and conflict within the individual, and as that spread out to nations, what it really boils down to is a lack of abundance. That there's a 4-stage, almost if your viewers are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you would know that he has stages of development and growth. I've condensed them down to 4 to simplify the model, which is survival, stability, success, and significance. And in the past couple of years that I've been coaching people, I've discovered that people can't pursue, even though they're aware of, they can't pursue significance unless they satisfy the success, stability, and surviving. And so when I extrapolate that model across nations, what I realize is that a lot of nations and tribes will war because they're trying to seek some sort of stability or success. Once people get some abundance in their life, the basic essential needs, then this conflict, jockeying and fighting for resources goes away naturally. So here's what I realized. Benjamin Franklin said that the natural best deterrent for war is actually trade. And so in America today, we trade with a lot of different nations. And even though China is a communist state, we do a lot of trade with them. And so they're not our enemy. They're naturally somebody that we want to work with. And that's just the reality of life. And think about the people that you do business with, that you buy products from. Those who you do business well repeatedly, you naturally like and build the relationship with them. Extrapolate that across nations. Those nations that trade well together, play well together. The key to that is increasing in abundance and the economies across all of these nations, so that every individual will no longer have the desire to want to fight another individual to get their basic shelter, food, clothing, and travel even. And so imagine a world where everybody had access to those basic essential needs, and an education system through the internet in which they could also learn and grow and build the discipline and have a network of people that they can grow their resources with and influence with. In that world, poverty becomes a choice, not a cage. You're no longer a slave to the life you were born into when you have access to all of these things. So imagine, in my house right now, and the reason we're doing this in a restaurant, just so your viewers know, is because I'm actually selling it. It's on the market right now, and we're doing an open house. But I was thinking about my house right now, and there's a water fountain right across the street, because we live across a bike path. And people every single day stop there, whether they're homeless, whether they're bikers, whether they're runners, or they're people with dogs. They take their water in at that water fountain across the street, and it's free to them. Now, I'm not so naive to know that it does cost some money, but because of the economy that I live in America, and I'm blessed to be here, and because the resource has gotten so cheap because of innovation and collaboration, that to the user, it doesn't cost them anything. So these days, we have a different problem, a first world problem, which is people would rather go pay $1 to get a bottle of water in the store than walk across the street and get something for free. And that's the weird world that we live in right now. But imagine that being projected across the world. Imagine that weirdness applying to food, to shelter, to water, to everything, right? And to travel, where we can innovate, where we have a world of entrepreneurs and people who are uniquely pursuing their purpose, who are creating new technologies and new ways of doing things, to where every one of those essential needs are as cheap as water across the street. And at that point, abundance has now led to abolishment of all poverty. And so in that world, people will move from survival to stability and be seeking success. And the way that we can move from success to significance, and this is the second part, is through massive, massive self-awareness. And so what I want to do to create this world where people are self-aware, because when you know what your giftings and your talents are, you're no longer trying to do everything to everyone, like to be everything, the best at everything. No, you're going to find what you're uniquely gifted at, and you're going to maximize that, because that is a gift to the world when you're living and thriving in it. When I'm the phrase I like to use is maximize your strengths and systemize and marginalize your weaknesses. So that could mean that you build systems to guard against your weakness, or that may mean that you network and you work and collaborate with people who are strong in your weaknesses, so that you can be protected against that and not have that liability. And there are different tactics to make that happen, but that comes through self-awareness. So one of the biggest things that has helped me in this past year is really spending time understanding who I am as a person, understanding my emotions. In the Myers-Briggs system, I'm really big on personality. I'm an ENTJ. In the Enneagram system, I'm a 387. If you don't know any of this stuff, in your mind. What's that?
You have it ingrained in your mind.
Yes. You know what's fascinating? I've been studying the Myers-Briggs for more than 15 years now. And when I know somebody's type, I can actually, I can't see their face without seeing their letters. And the Myers-Briggs has helped me tremendously as an instructor with my students communicate better. So this is part of the self-awareness thing, where the more that you know about yourself, the more of a gift you can present yourself to the world as, the more effective you become. And so I change every little dynamic of how I communicate and how I interact with individuals based upon what I know about them as individuals, their character, their personality, how they like to be communicated to. And the reason I do that is because if you really think about it, a lot of our fights today, if we're abolishing war, really has to do with miscommunication.
Yeah.
Like if you think about the last fight you had with your spouse or a good friend or a coworker or whoever it ends up being, half the time when it's all said and done, we don't even remember what it was originally about.
Yeah.
Which to me just means that what we've done is we resolve the aspect of we're on the same page. It's just to get there, it took an argument. How much better would life be if you didn't have to argue to actually realize that you understand and agree with the other person? And so self-awareness is a key to that. And so now here's the big question is, you asked me, Paige, like, what does this translate to? Okay, so here's the goal, and then let's reverse engineer back how that actually works out. So if world peace is what I want to achieve, and the two major components of that are self-awareness and abundance, how can I achieve that? Well, I want to create the Entrepurpose Academy in the next 10 years. In 2028, I want to have an academy, a physical location that is both online, but also physically where people can attend, which is a two-year program. The first year is all about creating massive self-awareness for that individual. It's going to be understanding personality theory. It's going to be working through limiting beliefs. It's going to be unpacking this emotional baggage that we bring to the table that hinders us from actually showing up as our best selves. And so this first year is going to be a systematic approach to really getting in tune with who you are. And one of the first things to tackle, and this is something practical for your viewers right now, is really take stock of how much you care about what other people think about you. If you can become free of this external influence, this external validation, what truly happens is you become free. And the only place that you should be externally validated for the Christian is by God and his word, which doesn't change. And so that's something you can bank on, because here's the problem when you externally validate based on people or things or success, like ideas like success and money, is those things change.
Yeah.
And so if your value and your self-worth is based on something that can change, you can actually never be truly worth something. If you really think about it, because at any given second, that could go away. It could be diminished. But if you place your self-worth in the God who doesn't change, in his timeless scripture, then that doesn't change, and therefore your value doesn't change either. And so you will continue to be a worthwhile, valuable human being in this world, regardless of what's happening to you.